Let's talk about dichotomies. So, I've been thinking about this one dichotomy recently, and this is the dichotomy of. This is from Hankei Style, but I know there's also exists in many other, I don't know, anime style gacha games. Imaginary and quantum. This is not one of the more well-known dichotomies. It's not like what is it, capitalism or socialism. It's not as polarizing as that. It's less political. It's more literature, right? It's a lot more philosophical. So I guess that's why it doesn't get as much attention. Um, I guess yeah. So this dichotomy, quantum obviously relates to Planck's constant, right? This is just like 6.626 times 10 to the negative 34 joules per hertz, which is just like some sort of energy conversion by frequency. And if you search online, they'll say something about like discrete energy packets, discrete energy quanta, therefore quantum. But it's just really like quantum, means, if you know the word quantity, means countable, as one of my nerd friends always love telling me. You might know. Countable, right? Sorry, countable. What this means is that at the most fundamental, basic level of our universe, of our reality, there is some countable portion. There is a smallest part which we can count, right? It is not completely continuous, it's not smooth like a line, but you can actually count small, tiny parts. And that is, probably somewhat related to this constant. So that's quantum, breaking down the fundamental unit of nature. Wow, imaginary, right? Wow, the imagination. Come with me and you'll be in a land of pure imagination, right? So this is more archetypes, right? So it's the opposite of being countable. It's the opposite of being discrete. It is more smooth. It is imaginary. Or in other words, you can say that this is more reality as well, going into quantum. In archetypes, I mean, this is Jung, right? Carl Jung, with all these personality archetypes, such as like the hero who goes and becomes the sun which lights up the world, or you have like the old wise man, sort of mysteriously smiling while giving some sage advice, or like the child who is innocent and curious about the world and still trying to look for something special. And apart from that, this is the second dichotomy level, wow, imaginary versus reality. So that's, already extend to another dichotomy. And then, well, this not it's not as clear, but here I'll write conformity, and here I'll write non for conformity, right? Here's another dichotomy. And the reason I write this is because imaginary, right? This goes back into archetypes, stereotypes, right? In your imagination, of a celebrity, I don't know, Ryan Gosling in that one meme about him looking at, what was it, Blade Runner? Looking at that digital, I don't know, persona, AI girlfriend. And it's like, oh, I can fix you. Right? That's a stereotype. It's so if I was gonna say that I was some lonely, depressed gamer dude, then you would immediately associate me with that meme, right? And then you would say that, I am a part of that stereotype. I am conforming to that stereotype as some lonely, depressed internet gamer dude ranting about some, I don't know, philosophical concept. But here, nonconformity, right? This is reality. So it's more complex. It is not this stereotype. It is, I am a complex person, right? How dare you apply this label to diminish my personal meaning? You know, I I am not just some sedentary internet lonely person ranting about philosophy. I also I also play soccer. I go camping. I touch grass and I participate in my community. Oh my gosh. I broke the stereotype, right? That's nonconformity. It's more real than imaginary. So, boom. We have three dichotomies here. Now, I just have, I mean, yeah, we can do a few more. So, of course, this goes into will and determination, just as Toby Fox's hit game, Undertale, has stated. It fills you with determination. And here with nonconformity, oh my god, I'm running out of space. This is more fate and chance, right? And boom, another dichotomy. You can see that I planned this out very clearly. So, imaginary, this connects back to archetypes and conformity. It's the will. What you think the world should be, right? What you think the world should conform to. What is your dream? Right? Was it Nelson Mandela? Be the change that you want to see in the world. And in this way, you make your world conform to your imagination. You realize your dream through the will. Your imaginary, I don't know, utopian dream, right? No more work, no more taxes, something like that. I don't know if that's relatable, but then you have quantum, right? Fate and chance. I mean, you could talk about the Schrodinger, another famous dude, or yeah, fate and chance. I mean, talking about reality, not everything goes the way you want it to be. Sometimes some things feels like the world is against you. Some things, you're some bird pooped on your car window, oh, you forgot some meeting that you didn't get any information about just by chance, or like, oh no, um, some kid dropped some ice cream on your shoes. Ah, why? Why is the universe doing this to me? Fate and chance. Right, this is reality. This is the breaking down of quantum uncertainty. Breaking down of Schrodinger's uncertainty principle, the Schrodinger's constant, into reality. You're observing whatever uncertainty cloud there is and realizing fate and chance, determinism of the universe. I mean, if you really want to open up discussion, then you could say, oh, the universe has its own consciousness. So that means it has its own will. In other words, your dichotomies are false, and the quantum part is just the imagination of the universe. And then that opens back into the simulation. I guess I shouldn't say theory, it's more like idea that the universe is a simulation, right? Because quantum equals imaginary. Okay, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit from these philosophical concepts. I'm gonna go back to the beloved Carl Jung, and I've in his book, the or collection of essays, aspects of the masculine, right? Of course, I am not saying that this is what male and female actually is, but these are just the archetypes which have been espoused or taught, or they exist as memes in our mind. So there's still things to be studied. Imaginary is associated with male, and quantum is associated with female. And if you play Honkai Star Rail, then you know that the majority of male characters are imaginary type characters, or are, I mean to say, the majority of imaginary type characters are male, and the majority of quantum type characters are female, right? This dichotomy, Honkai Star Rail. And I actually don't know much about this one, but this is like, what was that one, was it anti-feminist, and like, was it President Wilson or something? No, President Roosevelt. Something to do with some Equality Act. Oh, I can't remember. Oh, ERA, right? Oh yeah, it's like Phyllis Schlafly, or Shaffy? I forgot how it's pronounced. But anti ERA. ERA means Equal Rights Amendment, which is saying that women and men should be treated the same legally. Of course, that sounds reasonable, right, from a feminist standpoint. But also that takes into account, like, maternity leave, and also the draft. This is like during terrorist, it was like Vietnam or something, or some, there was definitely some war going on. So Phyllis Schlafly is arguing like, oh, there no more maternity leave, there would be no more, a woman would have to enter the draft, and it would be putting more burden on women actually, because during this like 20th century, late 20th century feminist movement, there were actually a lot about how women have to work alongside being a housewife. So they already have this burden in place. I guess Shifley might be taking advantage of that because then Era would say that men and women are equal, even though women still have this sort of housewife role, which is still part of their burden. I don't know. I'm just speculating here, but the point is, there was that in one of her arguments, she was fully like Marx starved his children. I'm not gonna bother writing out. It's just saying like Marx, was starving his children when he was ranting about his philosophy about socialism and communism. How no more private ownership and no more inequality, and we should all live. No, the rights to property and ownership should be shared by everyone. And his children are like, father, feed me. I cannot subsist upon 3 worms for a week. Or some sort of analogy like that. Which is false. As my history teacher noted, Marx did feed his children. But this stereotype of philosopher men completely disregard family responsibilities, I guess that's to say traditional man role, like the breadwinner goes out of the house and lets the woman take care of all of the kids, doesn't take any of that responsibility, and goes off ranting about some philosophy or fighting in some dumb war with other men, right? And I guess this philosophy is supposed to relate to archetypes, imagination, right? The abstract. In other words, the irrelevant to raising kids stuff. Sure. I don't know. I guess the female is. What do they call it? Civil motherhood or. No, Republican. Yes, they call it Republican motherhood. Women are the drivers of morality, they're the drivers of democracy. That sort of idea. And, it's all about care and the more emotional, tangible. And boom. Another dichotomy! What the heck? Sometimes I wonder, is it the brain's design to have this sort of dichotomy? Is it according to, what was it, the Jackson model of the brain, that there has to be this sort of dichotomy storage of information of opposites in order for us to accurately or advantageously even process information? Probably, there's a good, there's a bad, right? That's heuristics for you. This is all heuristic thinking. There is no logic here. This is all. This is. Yeah, you can't read that. It's all intuition, right? There's no logic. It's intuition. It's all intuition. It's all connecting random stuff, and there's no actual logical connection or foundation to this. It's art.